And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the CVO Live. I'm here with Ruben the Boer. He's a conversion optimization consultant and best-selling instructor. He's helping individuals and businesses excel in conversion rate optimization and experimentation. He's also a keynote speaker with more than 14 years of experience coming from online dialogue from Amsterdam. Hello, Ruben, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Such a nice introduction. Thank you for having me.
Of course, online dialogue is having a lot of bright minds, attracted a lot of good people. So I'm really excited to make this episode together. So the first question, Ruben, is how you've got into the experimentation arena in the first place.
That's a lovely question. I love that question. So, like I said, I have 14 years of experience, over 14 years, and actually started during my time as a student. I was helping out a company that was specialized in personal growth. So, in coaching for happiness, confidence, and social skills. So, personal growth as a whole. And I was helping with their marketing, being a marketing student. And at that time, I became really interested in human behavior, optimizing human behavior. But as a marketer, I also started my first experience with online, and I started doing some A/B test with ads, with ad channels, with landing pages. And I really had the question like, if we can change the behavior of people offline, how can we do this online? Well, that sparked my interest, that sparked my motivation for
Yeah.
continuous optimization, both in my personal life and in the online and business experience.
Super. And Ruben, if we focus a bit on how you are seeing right now the experimentation to set up the stage a bit, what we are usually discussing here is the, let's say, the perspective of optimizing the entire life cycle of the customers rather than just focusing on the website, which of
Yeah.
course it's an amazing endeavor. We are offering a tool and we are supporting a lot of clients to do conversion rate optimization, but this podcast is focusing on customer value optimization. So let's hear your perspective in, do you think this is going to be a thing? Do you think businesses should be focusing on improving customer lifetime value?
Yes, and of course I know that the focus of this podcast definitely. I've heard it before, and I absolutely agree. I see it more and more as well at the questions I receive. If I look at 3 years ago, it was all about conversion rate optimization. Please do my A/B testing on my landing pages and my checkout. Then we had more and more questions like, hey, we have this in-house team. Can you guide them? Can you set up the process? Can you lead them? And now we get more and more questions either from marketing, hey, can you help optimize the full customer
Yeah.
journey, including personalization, AI, experimentation throughout the whole funnel, and product now also comes with questions like, hey, can you help us continuously optimize the product? So instead of just being like a very small part, we now have the
Yeah.
full customer journey. I think that's vital. I think that's it's wonderful that we're going there as I don't think CRO will be that long of a term, will be more experimentation throughout the whole customer lifecycle. Yeah.
So, Ruben, you've said something important, which is the fact that more and more people are coming in the late years. Do you think this, let's say, this migration, what do you think CVO has in common with CRO? Because at the end of the day, it's experimentation rather than focusing on a single channel. We have email marketers, they also do experimentation. We have
Exactly.
ad PC performance marketers, digital marketers, they also do this type of experimentation. What are, let's say, the similarities in this process?
I think it's a lot. Some of my clients, I also have email marketers, ad specialists in the optimization team, and I think that, or I'm absolutely sure that because we're starting to work together instead of experimenting in silos, we learn so much more. We learn what works where in the full customer life cycle, in the full customer journey as well. And I think there's a big overlap. You can use the theories and help each other optimize the optimization process, basically. And if you document all your learnings well, you really start to get a rich database of what drives your customers, what are their needs, what are their goals, how can we optimize each step in the full life cycle. It's absolutely vital to start working together, share knowledge, and share processes and align.
Ruben, regarding the similarities, I think there is not enough emphasis on the fact that without customer research, nothing in the
Yeah.
marketing works. And even though we have a lot of self-proclaimed marketing experts, most of them are doing advertising, and there is this confusion between advertising and marketing. Let's focus a bit on your approach to customer research, because I
Mhm.
bet that it's a vital component into CRO. And I
Absolutely.
think that it's a pity that many companies are leaving this gold mine out there. So there are agencies like yours which are doing conversion rate optimization. They do this type of research. They understand the behavior patterns. They understand the other problems that the company has, besides the messaging, besides the UI of the website. And then the company doesn't do anything with this gold mine.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. And you have to remember that experimentation is also doing a form of research, or actually, it is most important form of research because you learn about what works and what doesn't work. But as you mentioned, like ideally, when we start with the client, online dialogue, we have several teams, and we start with a huge data and behavior study. So we have a team of analysts and data scientists. We have a team of UX designers and UX researchers, and we have a team of psychologists. And those three combined, they can use a lot of research sources to discover what is happening on the website, what's happening with the product, what's happening before people come to the website, what are their needs. And because we have such a rich combination of specialists and we can use such a wide variety of sources, that's when you get really rich insights before you start experimenting. And with experimentation, throughout the whole journey again, you see what research insights were correct, you start strengthening them, you start seeing more patterns, and the whole organization can benefit. Just last week, one of my biggest clients, they adjusted a TV commercial based on learnings from user research and A/B testing in the funnel. And that's how you can strengthen each other. And that's how it
Yeah,
should be.
I love it, and I think it's a great example, Ruben, because there are so many opportunities which are being, let's say, neglected. Tell us a bit about what's exciting for you these days. So, what's exciting in the CRO world, and then let's go from there.
Yeah. Now, like I said, for me, it's really exciting that compared to last year, I get completely different questions now from different stakeholders within the organization. As I mentioned, we get more and more questions from marketing to start helping out doing experimentation throughout the whole customer journey. And from product, we get things like product discovery, dual track agile, how to embed experimentation engineering pipeline. So it's becoming bigger and bigger. And with that, of course, we also have AI more and more coming up and people asking how to use AI within CRO, within experimentation. Yeah, I think CRO in itself should move really fast away from the CRO funnel, and the CRO specialist with experimentation and validation mindset should really move towards the marketing teams and be embedded in product teams to really start thriving there. You see this being an agency, you see this like many years ago, but it's hard to sell. Now that finally the market is picking up, yeah, that's
Yeah.
exciting times coming up.
You've said something important regarding the conversion rate optimization and the transition from a CRO mindset to an experimentation mindset. Let's focus a bit about what are the differences between two mindsets. How would you separate? How would you compare those two?
Yeah, CRO is basically it's conversion rate optimization, right? It is, as it says, it's mainly on the website and it's mainly to increase conversion rates. Whereas I think experimentation is much more broad. CRO is actually a part of experimentation, I believe. Experimentation is much more also optimizing the product or optimizing referrals or optimizing ads to get more people to the website. So it's much broader than just CRO.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful. And in that, with finally CRO specialists finally moving out of its silo, going more towards the teams, we get also a nice challenge that we have to motivate our colleagues to adopt this mindset, this experimentation and data driven and customer centric mindset.
Ruben, what does it mean in your perspective being customer centric as a company?
Nice question. Being outcome driven instead of output driven. There's a very short answer. I still see lots of product teams having a goal of accomplishing a number of sprint points instead of having a goal which is outcome driven, which is adding value to the customer and accomplishing your goals through that. So being outcome driven instead of output driven, I think that's the short but correct answer.
All right. What I'm hearing, to rephrase what I'm hearing, is that if you are after granular or metrics which are set regarding your own progress as a company and not based on the progress that the customers are making with the products or services that you're selling, you can't consider yourself being customer centric.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So that's a very important aspect. And to be honest, Ruben, I want to pick your brain on how to clarify these concepts, because I'm in this rodeo for years now. So I've
Yeah.
studied the focus on customer value optimization and on transforming the entire customer journey and the organizations for years now. What's, let's say, challenging is the fact that while we do have companies which call themselves being customer centric, in reality they aren't. In reality, they are after making money. I was just posting today about most marketers,
Yep.
the marketers that think that the job to be done by their customers is to help them make money. It's vice versa. So
Yeah.
we are the Yoda and the Luke Skywalker is the client, right? How do you suggest, let's look at the optimization of the mentalities of the decision makers within the companies, and let's do this exercise together. Let's come up with ideas to optimize this. Yeah, let's brainstorm together towards how to shift the mentalities from product centric to customer centric, from what we get to what we help our customers get.
Yeah. And that's of course is a big and challenging questions, because this we've been doing lots of people have been doing business the same way as for many years, and now challenging their way of thinking, there lies a nice big challenge. And first of all, before we get to the brainstorm, it's
Yeah,
going to be really challenging, it's going to be really hard. Changing mindset, changing way of working requires behavioral change, and that in itself is very difficult. Just think about probably personal goals like losing weight, save more money, stop drinking alcohol, stop smoking. It requires a behavioral change, and a lot of people fail while trying that.
yeah.
And now we are trying to change the way of thinking and working for our colleagues and entire organizations. So you have to see it as a fun educational challenge and stay mindful and not frustrated, because it's not going to happen within a week.
Yeah, that's for sure. So it's clear this rodeo again it's like I thought that it's a marathon, but in the meantime, it turned into an Ironman with no deadline, with no
Yeah.
finish and no dead end in sight. But yeah, let's come up with a few, let's say, how would we tackle this? Let's say it's me and Ruben against the world, which is stuck in the old ways. Yeah. We
Yes.
want to
Yes.
change the behavior of the companies and let's optimize it, right?
Yeah.
Let's do what we know. Let's tackle this together.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's very important to well, as you mentioned, it's not see it as us against the rest.
Oh yeah,
I
not
think
against, but
no,
it's
no.
our mission, let's say, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I see in some organizations, when specialists have this goal, they start trying to motivate colleagues and getting them to work more customer centric,
yeah.
experimentation, data driven, by trying to convince them with facts.
Hmm.
This really works because our big competitors do it. And I read this amazing book that says we should do it. And I went to this conference last week and they have big results and we should do this. And in
Yeah,
response, the colleagues will think like, hey, this person is pushy. I've been doing this work for 10 years. He's not showing interest in my way of working. And they will start resisting
yeah.
experimentation and being. So instead, you have to be a likable authority, as to call it. You have to
All right.
be humble. You have to be passionate but humble. You have to show respect. You have to show interest in your colleagues' way of working and try to accomplish their goals with experimentation instead of trying to accomplish your own goals.
All right. So what I've heard so far, and basically we are now at the hypothesis generation, right? Because
Yeah.
at the end, we first come up with the hypothesis, and in order to build the hypothesis, we need the data, and the data that we have is based on our, I don't know, combined, we have 30 something years of experience in these fields together. So
Yeah.
the data shows us, if let's say it's audited, the data is statistically
Yes.
significant, so that we leave that aside, right, for a bit. So what I'm hearing is that in order to change, the companies must change their mentalities, and we are after changing their mentalities in order to change their behavior. But the change, if it's coming from within, from, let's say, the internal champions and passionate people, they are facing a lot of resistance because it's the habit there, right? So we've
Yes.
been always doing these things this way. That's an important aspect. So who's changing the organizations? Let's focus a bit on what kind of organizations do change, or what's causing the companies to change their ways.
And one important thing to engineer, of course, is as a specialist, if you have the goal to motivate colleagues, if it makes sense for you, then do it and be a likable authority. But I think what I also see a lot is that sometimes it's a challenge you can't win. It's simply because if the manager of the product team gets a salary raise because he achieved the number of sprint points
Yeah,
and it created a number of new features, then you could see experimentation and customer research as slowing the process down, risking a salary increase. Thus, he leads the team to work hard and efficient to deliver as much output as possible instead of outcome. So it's also what happens from above, right? From higher management. What goals are there for the organization? And once they have the goal of being
all right.
more customer centric, more outcome driven, that's when you can, as a specialist, help motivate your colleagues by being humble and trying to achieve their goals with experimentation and showing them how it's done, involving them in the process. But
Got it.
don't be pushy.
So I'm taking notes because I'm trying to show you something. Hopefully my teammate can help me out, but we'll see about that. So I'm taking notes right now. So basically
Mhm.
what I've heard so far is like this. So let's do the lucrative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So to change the company behavior, we need to change their mentalities. And in order to change their mentalities, we need humble and likable authorities.
Yes,
And another thing that I've heard is that we need to understand how they are incentivized, right? How
yes,
the decision makers,
yeah,
yeah, are incentivized. So what kind of goals do they have?
yes, yes. And if
So
their goal
basically,
is really output driven, yeah, then it's going to be an uphill swim. Maybe you can change your team, change the mentality of your team. Then higher management sees, hey, this team is really successful. What are they doing? They
yeah,
get a seat on the table there and show them how it works. So you motivate higher management to reevaluate the incentives they give, but you need some support from higher management to do. Yes.
super. So what can we do though is to understand how the customer outcomes are aligned with their goals. So what I see here is the disconnection, right? Because if the KPIs are chaotic and are not taking into account the progress that their customers are making, then this is not going to work. So we need
Yep.
those type of companies. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It could even when the incentives are contradicting, like we said, oh, nice, new camera view.
So
Um,
basically, we have the
yeah,
behavior. In order to change the behavior, we need different mentalities. We need humble and likable authorities. How the decision to understand how the decision makers are being incentivized, the goals they have, and we also need to understand if there is a connection between the incentives and customer goals, right?
yes,
All right. Because if there is a disconnection, it's a work in vain, right? So we should also be picking the right battles, right, and ignoring the
yeah,
wrong battles. So
yes,
mainly what we need to take into account is the right companies that could be changed, because if they have this disconnection, we should fix this first, or we should be picking the right companies, because if we pick the companies that are already incentivizing their leadership team based on the customer goals and customer outcomes, then our job is going to be easier.
yes, yes.
All right. Super. Let's move on and let's see if there are any other things in the initial, let's say, initial phase of our optimization process. What else, what we should be reminding ourselves?
Yeah, there are of course a lot of things. These are quite high over. I think if you're such a specialist and you're trying to motivate your colleagues, you really have to take your personal growth seriously. Because at one point you're analyzing A/B tests, another point you're building hypothesis, then you're
Yeah.
presenting results, and you have to present them in such a way that people understand the value of experimentations. It's not just to find winners, but also to prevent losses. You have to know how to cope with resistance. You need to educate your colleagues, of course. That's one that's very important. So it's such a broad line of work, both the hard skills and the soft skills. So as a specialist, and if your goal is to motivate your colleagues, you really have to take your own personal growth seriously.
So one thing that I've also noted is the internal education problems and programs, right?
Yes.
Because if the company is not focusing on education, on training, then we're barking at the wrong tree, right?
Yes. You
What
can
what I
basically see it as, most people have read Think, Invest, and Slow, System 1, System 2.
yeah
System 2 is our rational brain. To make a change, System 2 needs to know how to change. So it needs to be smart enough. You need to educate System 2. System 1
mhm,
needs to be motivated enough, right? That's our primal brain, our strong brain. Rule of thumb is that 95% of our decisions are made by System 1. And it has to be motivated enough. And that's really challenging to motivate System 1. Again, you think about personal goals when you don't want to eat sugar. And at the end
yeah
of the week, on Friday afternoon, your colleague offers you a cake. It's really hard to resist it and tempting to take it. So there it's important to make customer centric work, because we're now talking about customer centric, but experimentation, data,
yeah
make it as small as possible, because we don't like big changes. We hate big changes. Give sufficient
of course
control. We want to stay in control. We don't like a loss of control. So that one is important. And again, show interest in my or colleague's way of working, because we don't like to be told we're doing something wrong. Like a designer who's been doing these designs for 10 years, and now you're going to tell them, like, yeah, what you've been doing for 10 years is not good. We first need to do customer research, then we can decide upon design, and then we can experiment it. But just making design and putting it live, that's not going to happen anymore. Yeah, that's
of course.
yeah,
So we need to, what I've noted as well. So far, I've made the 5 notes.
good, good.
We need humble and likable authorities. We need to know how the decision makers are being incentivized and the goals they have. We need the connection between incentives and the customer goals. We need internal education programs and to identify the education problems. And we need motivated people. So we need to suggest small changes aligned with their individual goals. If they are making progress in their careers,
Yes,
then they would be much more willing to produce that change. So basically making them famous for turning out an old school traditional company to becoming internet juggernaut, right?
yes, yes.
So basically, I imagine an experiment now that it sparked my imagination. I imagine an experiment. What if we could take, I don't know, 100 companies and we print fake Forbes first covers with the management team and with some fantastic outcomes about how they've turned around their company, just
Yeah.
like this. That could be an experiment. But
Yeah, no, definitely nice experiment. Because we can continue with analogy. To make change happen, you have to make system 1 and system 2 work together. And
of
for
course,
that, you can do stuff in the physical environment, as we do with A/B testing, for instance. You change something in the physical environment of your potential customer to change their behavior. Or we can tweak the social environment, bring people together, get them involved, make it fun, because when something is satisfying and fun, we'll do it more often. That way we can change habits. And of course, another one which you can write down, which just came to mind, is acceptance of failure.
so basically, all that I'm hearing, the more that we talk, Ruben, the more I
Yeah.
realize that the total addressable market is shrinking, for us if we want to succeed. All right.
Well, you have to make the market bigger by motivating more companies, right? But it's a
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
brainstorm, this.
yeah. So one thing that I want to throw in our conversation is that in order to just a second, taking another sheet of paper. I love this example. If you can help me, Flo. So I love this approach from BJ Fogg.
Yep.
If I bet that you're familiar with
Yeah.
with this. So he said that
Need page prompt. Yeah.
the individuals are changing based on an epiphany, are changing based on environment and tiny habits, right?
Yeah.
I guess what we are after is how do we produce epiphanies for companies?
Yeah.
Because their current habits, it's clear that they are not into the game of doing something. A tiny habit could be like an experiment that could change their mentality. What if we could send an update with the worst 5 complaints of their customers every week, so that the
Yep.
entire organization hears, hey, that was wrong, and the top 5 best, to balance a bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that could be a
Yeah.
tiny habit experiment. Yeah.
Yes. And what I also always like, and this may more be related to the epiphany, is when you do usability testing, I love just putting the product team together. so everyone involved, and actually see the usability test live, because then they work 40 hours a week, if they work 40 hours on the product, and now they finally see a user live using the product and getting
Yeah.
stuck at certain points and understanding. That's when they finally start understanding that, wow, okay, I thought it was so obvious that you should click there, but apparently users don't see it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is they need to feel the pain to have an
Yes.
emotional response.
Yes.
Love it. I guess we're good in terms of the data. Let's say we've
Yeah.
aggregated some data, and I came up with two hypotheses. Let's come up with more if you're game. Otherwise, I'm
That's
good.
good. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All
So
right. So
what are your two hypotheses currently?
the first cover of Forbes magazine with their leadership team
Yes.
and some fantastic news that they've changed dramatically shifted their company,
Yeah.
and to have an internal weekly note with the worst 5 complaints from good customers, from loyal customers.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, can think of a lot more. And of course, first thing before we get into more ideas, you should see your colleagues also as users. So do user research. What might work at one company might not work for another.
Oh
So
yeah.
do your user research, being your users now being your colleagues, and indeed experiment hypotheses. What I also, for instance, did for one company was that at one central point, I put up a big data screen. So with live numbers. And
Okay.
it showed the different numbers for each product team, which kind of arose an internal competition, right? Because if you have more views than the other product team, you can tease them. People started talking about them. People saw data every time they came into the office and went out. So they're more and more
Mhm.
aware of data. And the most beautiful thing was actually that also visitors saw the data when they walked into the office. And every single meeting started with the visitors notifying the data we showed at the entrance of the organization. And also, therefore, the visitors had the perception that the company was data driven.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the board of directors started getting compliments for having such a
Yeah. They
data
use
driven
data.
company. Yeah,
Yeah.
for this company. But for another company, it could very well be that colleagues draw conclusions upon the data, which are completely wrong because they're not that experienced with seeing data, and they act upon that. So it could backfire in other organizations. So therefore, always experiment internally as well.
Love it, Ruben. I have a thing that I must share in terms of the initial data research their internal users. I do know for a fact that something like only 26% of the companies worldwide are data driven, are making most of their decisions data driven.
Hmm.
According to, I think it was a research made by Bain and Company. So
Okay.
basically, that's the status. We're coming from. So should we focus on the 26% of them, or should we focus on the 74% of them? But that's up to our experimentation. And I also noted the central data
Mhm.
intelligence hub, that's
Yeah.
shared internally and for their visitors. Do you have other hypotheses?
Ooh, I can think of many, but one thing I want to note about the 26% that's actually so interesting. Do you know
Yeah.
when the first book came out on evidence-based marketing? Do you know when it was?
No.
Guess?
A long time ago, right?
I think it was 1912. Really. And
Wow,
it was
more
it
than a
was it
century,
was
man.
and it was actually called something like science-based marketing. And it was Claude Hopkins was the writer, and he
Yeah,
actually just sent different vouchers. So he had this address of clients. He wanted to send vouchers, split it in half, send different vouchers with different coupon codes, so you could know
yeah.
which voucher was converting higher than the other. So he did that. So for I think 10% to his customer base, and the rest of 90% got the other voucher. It was 1912. We didn't even have various Z tests yet, advanced statistics.
We haven't
Um,
got TV, man. In
Still 100
Romania, I
more
think the
more than 100
electricity
years,
was
110
wasn't
years
there.
later, 110 years later, still 26%. So this also shows that's quite challenging. But no,
So
another hypothesis, another one is 2 years ago, I was working for, or 1 year ago, I think, I was working for one of a large television company here in Western Europe, RTL. Not sure if you're familiar with it.
yeah,
And we did a nice idea competition. So we had nice prizes for individual and for teams and departments, which could be fun things like a team workshop or a personal workshop. and we started getting ideas to solve customer problems. So we knew to solve the customer problems based on research, and we asked for ideas from the company, and those with the best ideas and the most ideas and most creative, innovative ideas, they got points. And
Yeah.
after 1 month, we had a leaderboard, and the team got a prize. The individual with the most best ideas got a prize. And because there were nice prizes that really worked, it really started creating a buzz in the organization. And the good thing as well is we got a lot of ideas. So it doesn't stop there, because you know which team, which person handed in an idea. So you start experimenting it. And when it's a winner, you can bring a cake to that department, and they can celebrate together that they're the winning test idea. So therefore, testing and experimentation stays top of mind there. So
Love
that's
it.
another one.
Just note it, man. So you're coming up very, very fast. So internal contest of ideas
Yeah.
with prizes for experiments, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's do it like this. Let's continue like this. What's one important thing, and I've said this multiple times in my book, which by the way is printed, but is not gonna be live until September due to my
Nice.
publishing house in the
Congratulations.
US, but I'll send you your copy after this call, Ruben.
I
So
love reading it. Thank you.
yeah, so customer value optimization has these three pillars. What you
Mhm.
say as a company is marketing, what you do is customer experience, and what you sell is the product. And most of the time, the lifetime value is being affected mostly by the products, and
Yeah.
the products are not helping the customers make progress. So if you have a suboptimal product, that's very tough. So no amount of
Yeah.
marketing is going to fix that broken
No.
product. One aspect that I think it's important in terms of the hypothesis is to get a pulse of how bad is the company according referring comparing with the last quarter or with the same quarter last year, because the CFOs, and I think that's a topic that I think is based on the data, we have this disconnection between marketing, product, and finance. Those
Yeah.
three parts of the is like the heart is not getting along with the liver, which is not okay with the lungs, because they are
Yeah.
not, I mean, they should work together. It's the same purpose, but they have even different definitions of success. So I think if the company doesn't have the same definition of success, which is lifetime value, because that's why I love customer lifetime value, because it's emphasizing the fact that customers are voting with their wallets, right? If the satisfaction, if the NPS goes down, lifetime value goes down. And basically, it's clear that if you have pissed off customers, they are not buying from you, unless they are buying from Ryanair, which is a different conversation, right? What I wanted to emphasize, Ruben, is that one hypothesis could be around making these three parts of the organization aware about how shitty the current situation is comparing to last year, and how many customers they've lost. And if we can extract this data, but that means we have to have access from the data team, which is another conversation
Mhm.
about how the data is being captured and used. But I think we could, if we could create this type of relevant report over the impact of how poor the product is versus how poor the marketing messaging is, and how poor is the customer experience, and what is the financial impact for the company, I think that could be eye-opening, because that means they will experience the pain. It's not as sexy as the other ones with the internal contest, but I think
No,
that
no.
that might work, right?
No, exactly. I've seen it with clients as well. And as you stated, it's also quite nice, because I believe that you should have cross-functional teams, and that the data analysts should be with the product teams and UX researchers. But continuous discovery, continuous UX research is absolutely vital to work customer centric, to understand the customer, and also see changes in behavior and needs. And if you can then, for instance, if you do research with customers who are churning from your product, and you know the reasons, then you can get an estimate of the impact financially,
Yeah.
what it costs to not fix that problem, to not fix that issue. And as you said, when your product sucks, people start leaving negative reviews, and then your marketing also doesn't work anymore, because people will see those reviews, and then you can send as many people as you want to your website, but they'll find those reviews somewhere. So you sell much less. So eventually you have to work all together.
Yeah.
But continuous UX research, continuous discovery, interviewing churned customers, absolutely vital.
All right. So that's, I think this hypothesis is extensive. I will need to work on the so it's not well written, but the idea is to get to internal alignment between marketing, product, and customer experience, inform the finance about the weight of each once in the loss of customers through continuous discovery. That's the
Yes.
hypothesis.
Yes, and now you
Yeah.
have to make it small, otherwise it's too big of a step for system one. Start with on your churn page, ask people why they're churning. And then from everyone who churns, you can set a percentage, like
The
30% is
product.
this reason, 20% is this reason. Ask data what a churn, how much value you're missing, and you have a number. So it's very small. Start with a small survey, 1 or 2 questions on your churn pages, or let your customer service ask them when if they have to churn by phone.
Love it. That's more simple. So inform the CFO what's causing customers to churn based on a survey. Yeah.
Yep.
I have to learn how to write. It's I'm so used to typing that
Yeah.
I feel so ashamed about my own writing. But all right, Ruben, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hypotheses. You want to get to the next stage to
Sure.
prioritize them and to decide over what should be done?
Yeah. Yeah. And that of course different per company.
All right. So basically, we have these 5 hypotheses. We have the Forbes magazine first cover.
Yeah.
Then we have the 1, 2 worst 5 complaints. Central Data Intelligence Hub. In the meantime, Ruben, think about the decision criteria, how we are going to score these things.
Yeah. Good one.
All right, then.
I guess I regularly do these sort of brainstorms with my teams as well. And indeed, we have a process for that as well. And now we're generalizing for all organizations, but of course, yeah, do your research first and see what's most important for your organization. And it's very important. And when you do your research within your organization, to ask questions, ask a lot of questions. Why are people not experimenting? Why are people not working customer centric? What is holding them back? What are the obstacles? Do they need education? Is it the incentives? Don't they have the tooling? Because then it's going to be simple. Get a good tool.
Yeah.
Omni
Yeah.
Comfort, for instance.
Exactly. Or if it's about education, they should be educated, right? Because we have
Yeah.
this thing over here called the CVO Academy. So that's an idea, but I'm not going to brag about it. So we do have a lot of companies that the best news for this year to brag a bit is that we've just had the company buying 100 licenses for 100 of their people to get all through this process of learning at the CVO Academy. So that was by far, I think that company has serious chances to become customer centric.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you can also, if education is a problem, be creative there as well. You can incentivize people, do it with a free lunch and some good wines, for instance. You can combine stuff.
I love it. And this is an experiment within an experiment,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
it's the hypothesis is the education is the problem. But they need to be learning. And
Yeah.
that maybe they have a joint learning session with.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are many things you could think of. You can visit conferences with the team together.
Yeah.
As an agency, I also love inviting my clients to my office. And then they see all my colleagues work there in experimentation and they get inspired through that.
Of course.
As an agency, I always love to work at their office as well, because that's when I know I can see them. They see me more as colleagues instead of a vendor. I get a better idea of what the actual culture is, what's happening there. So there are many things you can think of when the problem is education.
Yeah. That's for sure a good experiment to have if the problem is education. Basically, what I want to share with you to end this. So usually how we do it with the within the CVO, we rate these ideas based on the potential, ease, cost, time, and impact. So we can give these type of scores from 1 to 5. But
Yeah,
in order to give those scores, we need an actual company, because if we don't know
yeah, exactly.
what's the company, we would be shooting in the dark. We would be evaluating this without having our problems to solve. But it's been a great exercise. First time that I've did it. Thanks for joining me into the Ruben. Let's migrate to another question, and I'm gonna share these photos with you. What I want to ask you, Ruben, is how do you suggest to have this type of adoption of new ideas? Let's speak about a bit about the culture of experimentation.
And you mean like how can we
How can we
execute these ideas?
Yeah, so how can we convince, how can we persuade, how can we influence the rest of the organization to embark this experimentation program? So let's presume that we have an internal champion that said,
Hmm.
okay, we want to do this, but the other department is not so on board with that. But they need their influence, they need them in order to experiment. Because what we've noticed for large organizations, that and basically we have the leadership team that says yes, let's do it, and then we have the middle management that says yeah, we will do it, and then we have the people which have to execute on different logistic flows, on different whatever, and
Yeah,
then is the inertia. There is the organizational inertia. So you've sold it to the upper management, and then in order to implement it, what can you do about
yeah. Again, I think it's just brainstorming ideas like we just did,
it?
and be a likable authority. Help them achieve their goals with experimentation instead of your own goals, and make it small. Don't start bothering people with statistics, crafting correct hypotheses, simple ratio mismatches, etc., etc. Just make it small. Start with test idea and do the rest for yourself for them, and discuss it for them with them. So I think it's again that, and for this champion and his team, it's vital to have a structured process, just like you do with UX research, just like you do with CRO and experimentation. For instance, with most of my teams, we have a weekly stand up where we discuss all the experiments that are happening, the researches we are doing that are happening, who does what this week, what did we accomplish. But also at the last, like I said, last 10 minutes, I discuss these ideas. So I do
Mhm.
occasionally do a brainstorm, like how can we motivate that department or that team. And we discuss the ideas we have. We discussed the things we tried, if it worked or didn't work, and how to optimize from there.
Love it. Yeah. Ruben, as we are approaching the end of our today's session, for which I'm grateful to you, I want to ask you, what haven't I been so inspired to ask you today, and you would like to share with our audience today?
Oh, that's a very good one. I think one last thing on this topic, which we could mention, is do a good stakeholder analysis within your organization. What stakeholders can help you, perhaps convince other more important stakeholders. So build a network within your own company. It's fun. You get to meet people. Also, if you're an agency, build a network within your client's organization. You can help your contact person grow within the organization, meet people, make like-minded people, and yeah, work as a community to accomplish the goals.
Love it. Yeah. Ruben, if you can share with us what kind of things are you seeing unfolding in the future of conversion rate optimization or experimentation. So tell us a bit about how you see the future unfolding in this area.
Yeah, like I said, I believe the CRO silo will die pretty soon, and CRO specialists will move with their mindset, their experimentation mindset, their customer centric mindset towards the teams, the product teams, the marketing teams to help there. The marketing team is going to be full customer journey, experimentation, personalization, AI. That's coming more and more, getting more and more bigger, and that's your
Yeah.
ambition. Then really get prepared. And on the other side, it's more in the product teams where you have a continuous discovery track with continuous user research, continuous validation of ideas, of assumptions, where experimentation also plays a big part. And of course, in the product delivery, when they deliver products, you could have experimentation in the engineering pipeline. That's what I see for the coming future. I see this happen more and more in the companies of the mature markets, being United States, UK, Netherlands, Germany. So yeah, it's going to be very and exciting times.
Tell us a bit about, Ruben, about your, how do you see AI being the main applications, let's say, the main ways that AI is going to be, let's say, used in the experimentation space?
It's twofold, right? In experimentation itself, you're going to have personalized messaging, personalized landing pages, personalized ads, personalized contact moments, touch points, personalized touch points. So it's going to, I see AI really work there and getting bigger and bigger. On the other
Yeah,
hand, it could also enhance the work itself. So, for instance, instead of reading through 500 reviews, throw them in an AI and ask for the five biggest complaints, the five biggest praises, and the jobs to be
yeah,
done. Same for analyzing surveys. Same for building code for your experiment. Same for instance, meta analysis. You have done 65 experiments on this landing page. Throw all the learnings and numbers in AI, and it can tell you what you actually learned and what good follow-up experiments will be. It's not there yet, but it's going to play a bigger and bigger role to make our work more efficient.
super, love it. I my personal bet is that websites are not going to be too long around. So I think in a not so distant future, we will see that the connection between the desires of the human beings and the technology is not going to be so full of friction like are the website. You need to
Yep.
go, you need to search, you need to type, to use your fingers. I think the next generations will laugh at us when they will realize how we used to buy a pair of shoes, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. I heard this hypothesis a couple of years before with voice that you can just tell your Google Home or your Alexa like, "Hey, I need to
Yeah,
buy this." So websites will not exist anymore because everything is voice. So it's a common hypothesis, and it will be fun. It will be challenging,
of
and
course.
we'll exploit new ways of optimizing.
Yeah, there are some interesting times coming our way. What I have to say about it is that in order to get there, we to stay ahead of the curve, you need to be always learning. And
Yes.
that being said, thanks a lot for being here today, Ruben. And I must say that this episode of the CVO Life has been brought to you by OmniConvert, our dear company. It's always in mirrors, right? We are helping companies and smart people optimize the entire customer journey with our solutions. We have a CRO platform called OmniConvert Explore, which helps companies to do digital experimentation, to run surveys, to do A/B testing, to do website personalization. And we also have our tool called OmniConvert Reveal, which is helping e-commerce and bricks and mortar retailers become customer centric by monitoring what matters, which means customer lifetime value, segment their customers, and monitor NPS at various points, pre and post delivery, and by different steps within the customer journey, and by employee, role, brand, category, and so on. Basically, that was it for today. Thanks a lot for being here with us. And Ruben, thanks a lot, man, for doing this session with me. It was one of the best episodes we did. Thanks for being such a good colleague, from Bucharest to Amsterdam. And if let us know where can we find you if we want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, again, thanks for having me. It was a great time. Yeah, and for everyone, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of stuff about this topic there. And I'm also very happy to answer any questions you might have. So add me on LinkedIn, Ruben de Boer. You'll find me, and happy to chat there.
Super. That being said, all the best from Bucharest, and thanks everyone for watching. See you next week.